What's good, everyone? I'm Misfit, and welcome to Facing Issues, a podcast about the art and science of music production. I'm your host, Misfit, and for this episode, I'm so happy to be interviewing and to talking with the one and only Eastghost. What's good, man? Thank you for joining me.
Yo, thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure to finally talk to you and just catch up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're based in Portland, right?
Yep, Portland, Oregon. I've been here
Nice.
like 10 years almost now, which is crazy.
This is
Uh,
cool. I think like is it super like into the nature? Like because I've never been to Portland and I've never been to Oregon, but like from like my perspective, it looks and sounds like a place in the nature with a lot of green. Is it true?
it really is. It's one of the probably most beautiful parts of the US in my opinion. And it's a very eccentric place. There's there's a little bit of a scene for kind of whatever you want to do here. And yeah, I think artists especially like living here because you can just like go 10 minutes outside of the city and be it feels like you're nowhere near a city at all.
This is
So that's
lovely. Also,
a
like
huge.
listening to your music, like I can tell that you're like pretty inspired by nature, right?
Definitely so. Yeah, I'm always writing in that in that mentality, like imagining people listening to music like on long walks in nature because I'm constantly doing that. So I think I'm sort of trying to apply that when I'm writing stuff usually.
I love it. Do you also like write music like outside? Do you enjoy writing music like for example in the nature in general?
I should try. I should try. I feel like yeah, it would be really nice. I definitely like play more. I do more instrumentation stuff outside, but like having the computer outside is just not quite it, is it?
Yeah,
It's kind of just not it's not quite it.
I
I
feel
like
that. I feel
yeah.
that.
You always just feel like, especially if someone observes you, you just kind of feel like you're the guy on the computer, like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh hi, like you feel like like they've interrupted you doing something kind of like, oh yeah, I have my computer out here in the woods. I'm just being I'm just being very artsy out
I
here.
know, I know. But actually, as far as I know, you actually record a bunch of stuff, right? Even like Foley in the nature. So is it something that you do very often or?
I definitely do. I record a lot. I'm really into recording like many layers of just various things, I guess. I feel like that's kind of, we were talking a little bit about the sound design techniques, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's such a major element for me, is just creating something that is, I don't know, I guess it's just like a little bit hard to define like where it's coming from. Like if when you smash all these five or six or seven or eight like layers of different elements together and you just get this, it doesn't sound synthesized and it doesn't really sound recorded. It's like in this middle area. I feel like that's my favorite.
Yeah.
That creates usually my favorite end product of.
Yeah. And like listening to your music, I think that like probably you're one of the best artists when it comes to creating soundscapes, textures, different layers, as you said. So like my very first question, since
That's
I,
very nice to
I
say.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said thank you. That's a very nice thing for you to
Oh
say. I
yeah, man.
appreciate
Like I really love your music, and yeah, your ability to create a nice ambient, nice textures, really like I think elevates you from many other producers. And I think also that the ability to create textures, soundscapes, and ambience is really one of the most important skills in music production, in the modern music production. So my very first question is, what is your actual go-to approach when it comes to create those different layers, those textures and soundscapes?
I guess let me think how I would normally start. I feel like I never start. I feel like I never start a track with like the percussion for one, or like the bass line or anything. I think I'm kind of always starting. Uh, like I start a lot on piano, like kind of developing some sort of chord structure or melody, sometimes I'll actually start with a melody, which feels kind of like when I used to do a lot more painting, and my art teacher would always give me a hard time because I'd like paint the thing in the foreground first, and then I'd have this like blank white canvas around like some object, and she'd be like, why do you do this? Like, you make it so hard on yourself. Like, you should do a background and then you can paint over it. But I kind of can't think of what's supposed to be back there until I have something like a subject to place. I like to place the subject in a thing rather than like create an environment and then put a subject in there. So I think I'm the same way sort of with music. Like, I usually like to, I don't know, I feel like I'm trying to always like find some, I like a thing that sounds kind of a little broken, or like it's malfunctioning in a
Yeah.
way that is tasteful. And I'm always kind of looking for sounds like that. I'm always just kind of like keeping my ear open for when something sounds like that. I don't know how else to say it. And then definitely a lot of layering and layering and layering. Like, I'll record a lot. I probably record a lot more than I do like synthesis. I feel like a lot of the times the only synthesis in my songs will just be like the bass
Yeah,
part.
of course, of course.
So you can get such unique results, and you can build like such a characteristic like sound palette in a song by recording, because there is just pretty much endless, there's like all of the mistakes and all of the weird artifacts and things that are created by recording in different environments. Like,
Yeah,
that's just one of the easiest ways I feel like to develop like a unique character in your song, because just no one else in the world has that or can
yeah.
make it. It's like that specific set of circumstances that creates that recording. So I really like that. I like to record, I like to get recordings with a lot of like ambient stuff going on in them too. Like if I'll be recording a melody, I'll like maybe play the melody, but then I'll also set up a mic and I'll record like my fingers like
Oh,
playing the melody.
nice.
And maybe if like there's people like in the room, I'll record like it, you know what I mean? It's just,
Th-
so
That, that's
if
so
you
cool,
only
man, honestly.
resample, like say you have like a minute of that recording, but you're just
Yeah,
resampling like 1 or 2 seconds of it, and that's like your loop, then you end up coming up with this like, it doesn't sound like a person talking in the background, or
of
like
course.
you just end up getting this like strange character image of
Exactly.
the sound, and you're like, how did they make that? It'd be so hard to like reverse engineer it and be like, I'm gonna try to make.
And I think, now that you're telling me this, I think that those weird like textures that many producers, try to achieve are most of the times coming from very like simple things, just like a basic environment, just like as you said, the recording. And I think that's
Totally.
like the simplest but also like smartest way to achieve, like an original sound, a very, unique texture. And also but like you said, that you record stuff, you record people, you record the environment where you're working on. But also I believe that, as you said, you resample a lot, so you just like throw the recording into Ableton and just like start to process that audio file, right? So do you have
Yeah.
actually a favorite plugin when it comes to warping and resample the sound and modulating those recordings?
There's definitely a few like that I've been using constantly. Most of them I think are probably at this point Max for Live
Oh,
plugins.
so
I use Ableton Live for producing mostly now. I love this one called Particle Reverb. It's kind
okay.
of like I wish I could shout out who made it, because maybe it's that person Kentaro, maybe them. I'm sorry if that's not the right person who made it, but there's so many like just crazy super sick developers doing stuff in Max for Live right now, that,
I
and they're pretty,
know,
giving them away a lot of times, or sometimes they'll be like,
that's
I think
insane.
Particle Reverb is like $30, I think, but it's so worth it. And it's it's hard to explain what it is. It's like it's a really hard, it's a really huge reverb. So if you have the diffusion all the way up, it's just like a
Okay.
spectral reverb thing that goes on for like 20 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
But if you have the diffusion down, you can turn up this like particle amount, and it creates almost these granular stutters and things like
Ooh,
that.
love
And it's
that.
just, yeah. And then also the Robert Hank or Hank, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but the regular granulator is just like a go-to because it's just so great.
Yeah.
And I
Dude,
love I love anything granular synthesis is like, to me, like just the goat of like having fun while making music these days.
dude, like talking to Ableton producers makes, because I'm on FL and talking to Ableton producers, and
I started on FL. FL's valid. Like FL,
I know,
I think
but
about going back and making stuff on it all the time because I made different stuff on it. But
I wish, Max for Live was also for FL, like an FL version of Max for Live, because dude, like I've been seeing so many insane Max for Live plugins that, like, dude,
it's
that
genuinely like not fair if you're not on Ableton.
yeah,
Like the
like
stuff that's going on in Mac, and they've just released like this new builder tool where you can actually, it's definitely not easy.
I know, yeah,
You have to be pretty obsessed with learning it for a while to get your head around it. And I've never been particularly gifted at like figuring out modular things like that. But yeah, I mean, there are people really dedicated to like just making the weirdest, strangest, like most, they might have one function,
yeah,
but it's just a really cool thing. And a lot of them are free. So that's what makes it so
exactly. Like it's literally, it's almost a cheat code, to be honest, because like I saw this Max for Life plugin 2 weeks ago, and it was called something like something birds, and you literally have that this like XY modulators that is represented by birds like flying and floating, and like the textures coming from that, it was almost like a frequency shifter, but also like something different, something granular. I couldn't like exactly describe what it was, but dude, and that one, it was like $10. And dude,
yeah.
to be
I
honest,
know. It's like,
it's a steal, to be honest.
it's a steal. It's there's I mean, so there's definitely, okay, there's the side of it where they can be very buggy. So you kind of have to like, once you got something that you like, you should probably like, I don't know how you would do that. I think you could just probably set an audio, channel to record, and then in Ableton you can basically do this thing called freeze and flatten. I'm sure you
Yeah,
probably know about.
thank God, since I think FL20 or FL21, you can have this sort of like freeze and flatten feature. Like before that, you had to record through Edison or just like actually export that part. It was just like,
that was a lot. Yeah, that was a lot of like steps. The freeze and flatten thing is one of the best things in Ableton.
I know.
Yeah, you pretty much probably should do that, because who knows if when you open it up in a couple of weeks it's going to be the same. That's one of those things about Max for Live that you do realize why they're not more money at a certain point, because it does they some of them can be a real headache. But like, I mean, it is what it is for $10 or $15, and to have like independent developer just make something that blows your mind and is really fun to use, even if you're using it for 10 minutes and it works for 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
Worth it. Just record it to audio. That's my biggest tip for Max.
I know that's crazy.
Once you find something you like, record it to audio just in case, because it might not be there when you open it back up.
I've been doing that like a lot of times, but one thing that I do love like doing is like actually create a very simple patch, then like literally put random effects, random reverb, random delay, and then literally automate every single parameter of those plugins, and then have this like 10 minutes long recording. And then just like after I record, I just like chop the parts I like, and then like save them in like folder. I think it's very, intuitive. It's very like, it's fast, and also very, efficient, because you can get like a lot of good samples out of just like one recording. So yeah,
it's true. That's like a technique so many friends of mine love to use too. And I always forget to do that, but it does seem like the Max for Live, one of its biggest strengths is just the randomization tools
I love that.
are really advanced.
Dude, I was talking a month ago to a developer. He was working with Contact. He was working with like independent plugins, like, factories and just like, big brands, big like companies, but also like independent companies. And he asked me, what do you think like could be like the next big thing when it comes to, a plugin, an effects plugin? And I said that, and I still think that probably a very efficient randomizer would be like game changer in my opinion. Probably there are many, but I've never came across a like powerful randomizer. I know that it sounds that I want to like find a cheat code to be faster when it comes to writing, but I think that nowadays industry, sometimes you gotta be fast. I hate to say that because like
I hate it too.
music and art should take time, but like,
Yeah.
dude, everything like goes so fast, like it's
You have no
insane.
choice but to like pump out as much stuff as you possibly can and just hope for the best.
And it's
Uh,
insane because I hate like the whole like hustle culture. I hate the fact that you gotta be releasing music constantly. You gotta be like staying active on social media. But like, dude,
yeah.
nowadays the music industry goes so fast and it's very hard to stay up to date.
I think we all collectively hate it and we all like can't stop doing it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh God, like this is so bad. Like, what's happening? We should stop. But then I don't know, but if you it's like a protest, you have to, or like a strike, you'd have to get everyone to do it in order for it to,
Yeah.
because like if everyone stops, someone's be like, oh shit, they slowed down. I've been working on, I got 20 tracks I can drop like in the next month. It's
Dude.
just crazy. Like, I mean, for people that write that way, like I've always really admired like those really prolific producers.
Oh,
Like
same.
sometimes you talk to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I have like hundreds of unreleased tracks. And I'm just like, I have none. Like I have no
Exactly.
unreleased tracks.
Exactly.
I'm working on one and then I release that one and then I'm working on one and then I release that. Like right now I actually have, to be fair, I actually have like 9 or 10 that are pretty much done, but I'm about to release like a score that has like 10 tracks in it.
Oh,
And
nice.
these other things I've been making are like the complete opposite of that, just because it's like I needed to sort of refresh my brain and make stuff that was just for fun and wasn't really cinematic or emotive at all. Which has been cool. Like that dichotomy has been a good time. But like, yeah, it just, I don't know. I think the randomization is probably I think a lot of those producers do love those randomization things. And I mean, from what you said, like you haven't found one. I think that's one of the biggest like draws in modular, like in the modular world. Those, like there are so many really like sophisticated randomization modules that you can, I mean, they're like hundreds of dollars and stuff, and
I
it's
know.
like
Yeah.
it's a whole saga in life to get into that, because you're just gonna sink crazy thousands of dollars of money into it. But as far as a plugin goes, I agree. I think that randomization can just like, it can be so satisfying once you get all the elements in place, and then it's just an infinite constantly evolving thing. It's Yeah, it's a lot. I love the granulator for that purpose too, because every single time the track plays back, you're getting something a little bit different, except it can be a blessing and a curse, because sometimes you really like it the way it was one time, and then it's like
Exactly.
anyway.
Exactly. And do you happen to use also like plugins, like for example, like Quanta or Poral, which are like more common and more, popular when it comes to,
Those are the output.
yeah, output Poral.
I've wanted to get those, but I guess I've just been kind of a cheap ass, and like for what it is, it seems like it's kind of simple for like it's like $150 or
Yeah,
something for
sort of.
Portal. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it seems kind of more like it is like, it's like one of those matrix XY kind of, it seems like
Yeah.
a cool effect, but I think it might, I've tried to like in recent years hone it in a little, because I was in like plugin.
Dude.
I was in the plugin craze for a few years, and I was just buying, like, oh yeah, yeah. And then now I have like hundreds of things I don't use, and I've actually been kind of going, like, I talked to like Saruda. He pretty much, like, I feel like mostly just uses stock Ableton plugins. And I talked to so many producers lately who are really like doing really well and have very complex, like really music that sounds very much affected by like all kinds of things. And they're like, I only use stock. And I'm just like, okay.
I mean, let's be honest, like Ableton stock plugins are just like insane, to be honest. Like,
There are, and there's a lot of them, so it can totally be done. It can totally be done. I'm totally like, I'm a sucker for like a cool user interface,
oh yeah,
Like
that's
when I
very
see
true.
like a really pretty one, I'm like, oh damn,
That's very true.
I bet you it sounds really good. I should demo it. But it's like, you could probably do it with what stock.
Yeah, but I
Almost
also
always.
feel that, like, when you're writing music, opening up a plugin with a very cool user interface kind of pushes you to just like, tweak knobs, try new
Yeah,
things. I mean,
yeah,
I
very
think,
true.
it's important to also like visually see your music and being like in the right context, also like visually. Like, it's cool when something is like nice and, like when the user interface is cool to see, but also like when it's very intuitive. And I think that there are many plugins who can, achieve both and have both. So I think that, it's a good
Most definitely.
compromise, in my opinion. Also, like, I had one question that I wanted to ask, like, since the very beginning of this chat. And, your LP Meter and Wonder, like, is honestly, and I'm generally saying this, is one of the best like LPs I've ever heard when it comes to,
Damn.
electronic music. And this is just like, in my opinion, that's a fact. And I don't it's
Thank you, dude. That's really, I really appreciate you, man.
and
That's very
one
nice
of the
thing.
things that I've been always wanting to ask you is, like, you have like a very good ability to, make your elements dynamic and make them move. So how, like, would you say is like very important and crucial in your production style, stereo imaging, panning, dynamic effects?
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. I don't know. I think in the last year or two, I've been really, really trying to study other people's music and try and get like a more profound understanding of stereo image and how it should be used to create like the most dramatic effect possible. Because
Yeah.
like sometimes something just being in mono for a second can be, it will like blow your head off. Like if you do it right, you know what I mean, and like all that space suddenly goes away. That can be so, that
Yeah.
can just like that will make, things like that. When people do that really, really tastefully, and it will like make me like cry and like start laughing sort of maniacally, because like those things, like those things are so satisfying to my brain, that I want to I want to have control over that, like spatial sound.
I
I
mean,
want to be that of anything, like as far as like mixing and stuff goes, that like building that sort of world and environment is like the most, it's that to me can be the most satisfying. Because sometimes you'll hear something where like the mix, like in a traditional sense, the mix is just such garbage. Like the kick is like, there's like no kick in it whatsoever pretty much, and there's like the bass is way, way, way down, and everything sounds, but like it will create this like environment that's so, it's just so special. And it like when that song comes on, like you'll recognize it in 1 second,
yeah,
because it just
yeah,
hits, it's like it just hits your brain like
yeah,
in this really
yeah,
special way.
yeah.
And yeah, so I feel like I've been going really hard into that, and like trying to like listen to stuff on so many different, like I have so many headphones at this point, and like I have like 4 pairs of like really nice headphones around me at this moment, and like uh listening to things on my monitors, and listening to things off the laptop speakers, and listening to things like in all these different environments to try and get a better understanding of that. But I definitely do a lot of that hard panning whenever I record, especially whenever I record like any type of like plucked guitar strings or like the dulcimer or like the little harps and things that I have. I always do like 2 takes, and I always just like that. That's one of those things I really like, to be hard panned, like 2 takes on top of each
Yeah.
other, especially like when you're hand picking like a guitar melody or something like that. I do a lot of like recording. I record a lot of acoustic guitar in my music.
So you
But
record twice, right? You
I always
don't.
record it twice, always.
Nice, nice,
And
nice.
I just always feel like that's one of those things that it just always sounds good to me,
Yeah,
like hard stereoed as like 2 different takes that are
yeah,
a little bit off, you know, because you just get like, it just immediately does something that my
yeah,
brain
exactly. Because it's way different from, splitting the same signal into twice, left and right, because like that recording will never be the same as your like second recording, the first recording, because like there will always be like some tiny differences that, give character, give like movement to the thing. So yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Exactly. That's one of those things that's like compared to synthesis, where like you would have to spend so much time
Oh yeah,
automating that to make that,
yeah,
you spend an entire day doing 2 takes in your synthesis, because it takes so long just to, get your sequence there, and then to mimic it but have it be inconsistent in all these tiny ways. Like, that's why I love recording, because you can do that.
absolutely.
You can record that in 30 seconds and you
Yeah,
have the desired effect. And that's just like my big, I'm very pro recording stuff. Like
I can definitely
I'm
tell.
an avid supporter of recording as much stuff as you can.
Do you have very specific mics when it comes to, record, especially when you're outside?
Not particularly. I kind of just have like what I could afford at the time. I have one mic. It's I have like a tube condenser, the Aventone CV12. It's like mid level, maybe even like low level condenser. It's actually kind of, yeah, it needs some work right now. I had a really cheap mic stand and it would always fall over, and I'd be like, oh shit, that was probably the one, but it took a lot of abuse, and now it's kind of struggling. So I also record on, like, it sounds crazy, but this like blue microphone that's like USB that you can probably buy at like a Best Buy or any place. Like, it's not an expensive mic at all. It's for like people who are doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I should probably be using it right now, but it has like 4 different cardioid I don't know how to say that word, patterns. So you can get some like nice stereo images on it. And what I like about it is that it's like bus powered. So you can just plug it in USB to your computer. So if you were to be doing like field recording,
Yeah.
it's a very nice mic for field recording. And I sometimes think about this because like all my biggest songs that I have, like I recorded the vocal on this mic. And it's like a $70 mic from Best Buy. And I'm like, damn, because I got a nicer condenser mic. And I'm like, maybe it just doesn't have the warmth of that like $70 mic. I don't know. There's something about it.
And then it can become your kind of signature sound, because like the flavor is the same, but also and that's cool. Like I think the most interesting thing about working with microphones, recording, and then eventually resampling, is that you can literally start from like anything, any sound, and turn them into like something insane, or just like put that tiny bit of human flavor to your song. Because like as you said before, now the concepts of velocity and swing are literally applied in music production just to emulate that human flavor, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's so many tools in production now that are basically just for the purpose of emulating an inconsistency of human, like the human touch. And
yeah,
it's very nice that those things exist now, though. I can imagine
that's true.
like programming something on like an 808 or something back then, and being like, there's like one thing for swing you can just adjust.
Yeah,
And the FL step sequencer has that like swing, you just like turn it up, but it's very specific, it's very like,
yeah,
you can't really adjust that past just like, this has swing or it doesn't have swing. And Yeah, that's one of those. Yeah, I love recording for that reason, especially like recording multiple takes. And I do that a lot with vocals too. I'll double everything up and just find like a kind of satisfying mix of panning. Like I feel like I do a lot of like 20 to 25% left and right when I do two takes of vocals. And yeah, it's just doing two takes in it for almost everything. I like the way that the things hit each other in
I love
consistency.
that.
It creates such a nice texture, especially for like percussive elements. If you're, I love that Niels Fromm like una corda piano that Contact made, because it has like, it's one of those like felt pianos, but you can turn up the felt to the point where it's like in like belligerently
Yeah,
loud, like to where it's way louder
yeah.
than the piano itself. And yeah, just recording whatever your melody is like with that, and like multiple takes of that, and you just getting all those like clicking. I love like those clicking things and all the anything that just, yeah. I'm sorry to be overly enthusiastic about
No,
like
absolutely. This is insane. I love that. I
clicking and
love
like
that. We're here for this. We're here for this, man.
it maybe is like, maybe it's scratching some kind of like ASMR itch in my brain, but I enjoy clicking. What can I say? I like when something is clicking a lot.
I love that. I love that. Also, I have one final question before wrapping everything up. And do you have actually one specific song on one specific artist that comes to your mind when you think about modern sound design and specifically modern resampling?
Wow. That is a very tough. I wow, that's tough. Hmm. I feel like in more recent times, there's one. Have you listened to that like Sleepnet album?
Oh man. Oh man. You already know. Dude,
So
is the
so
GOAT, the absolute
annoying,
GOAT.
so annoying how good it is. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh my god. I
Yeah.
feel like maybe it's I that first track, Love No More, is so fire. And
He's honestly insane. Like it's not even, this is not even fair, man. Like
it's not
sleepnet,
fair.
yeah. Honestly, like
It's
at the end of every episode, I'm always asking like the guest, so who's your like favorite artist when it comes to sound design and blah blah. And I always like say sleepnet. And
really
now, yeah, and now that we're thinking of the same person, because honestly, man, like it's very hard to
that record
find.
just that record was too like, it was so perfect. It was so perfect. And it just, yeah, it blows my mind still. I listen to it a lot. It's really good for like if you are going for a run or something and you need something
Oh
to
yeah.
just
Oh
make
yeah.
you go fucking crazy and
Oh
like
yeah.
push yourself harder than you feel like you can. It's so good for that. And everything that's going on, especially with the vocals in that album, was so inspiring. I love the way those vocals are processed. You just get these like,
Yeah.
stuttering sort
Yeah.
of washes and like
Yeah.
and sort of attacking you
And
from
it's so
all,
dynamic but still loud and still low. You can feel that in like in the center of your mix, of the mix, but also you can feel it moving. You can feel like scratching your ears. It's like insane, dude. Like
yes, exactly. I love it. I love it in the context of vocals too. I
yeah.
think resampling vocals, and it's one of the just like it's one of the most satisfying things to do in music. And you like, there's so many different examples I feel like I could like call to when it comes to that, like layering and resampling and stuff. Like even back as far as, some of the like probably my favorite band is Animal Collective.
Okay.
They're, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with their work, they're kind of a experimental post-punk, like electronic pop something. They're very, very hard to categorize. They're like out of Baltimore, Maryland. And they kind of like opened my mind to the whole layering of like vocals, to the point where it's like maybe 30 layers of the same vocal, to where
What?
you're just, because you don't think like, what would happen if I just kept recording over and over and over, but
It's
like
insane.
it creates like, I would listen to like these interviews of how they would do things like, and talking about how many layers are present on some of those tracks. But even though they're all very quiet in the mix, like just they're creating these giant washes like that. Also, like there's this song Voices by John Talbot that I listen to all the time. It's like in this playlist that I listen to when I'm like on a flight. I like listening to it when flying. But it's just all these like really small clips that I think maybe if you were to automate like the sustain of like a sampler instrument that had a bunch of different recordings of a vocal in it, and then you could like make them very short transients and then automate the sustain open so that they sort of start expanding and like playing out.
Love that. I love that. You gotta send me these songs, man, because like I'm not super familiar with them, but I generally want to, you know, when it comes to, you know, complexity and also like, you know, textures and, you know, different approach, especially to vocal recording, I'm all for it, man. Also, like, you know, I wish we could talk about this for hours, but we literally have 1 minute left. And it's so bad, man. Dude, like,
it's been so much fun though.
It's been such a pleasure.
I go crazy, man, talking about this stuff because it's like I just ruminate on it all the time. So I get carried away. So sorry,
dude. No, man, dude. Thank you so much for you know, for everything. It's been super nice, dude. Like I wish we could literally talk for hours, but we have like 30 seconds, dude. I'm super grateful, and I surely know that, you know, people will enjoy this chat we had, because it's been super fun, man. Thank you so much for joining me, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. This was a really good time, and
thank you so much, man.
All right.